ha 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 ha. Yeah, I'm totally laughing for real, and I'm totally not laughing to try to be annoying for you right here. When I saw this pop up on my timeline as a potential option, I figured, boom! Shakalaka, gotta go out there and try to bounce on that idea. Because if I could go out there and try to convince at least one Toronto Maple Leafs fan that Jaroslav Halak would be a good pickup for your team, I think I'd be doing the world a huge service. So let's go over onto the Toronto Maple Leafs, take a look at what they've been up to recently. Oh, that's what they've been up to recently. Now, last game against the Buffalo Sabres was not a good one, and it was one that a lot of people would go out there and say was embarrassing, for lack of a better word. I mean, 5-1 in your home arena, first time in forever that you guys actually have full capacity, and based off of what everybody has been saying, because I didn't watch the game, defense, bad. Forwards, bad. Goaltending, bad. Engagement, bad. Just everything across the board, bad. How is it that the Toronto Maple Leafs always find a way to beat good teams and lose to the absolute bottom of the barrel? I forgot who it was that said it. I believe it was Rasmus Sandin. But yeah, Buffalo is a team that Toronto should be able to beat. This game, though, kind of went out there and solidified even more of a talk that the Maple Leafs fanbase has been having when it comes to goaltenders. Are Campbell and Mrazek good enough to carry this team to the promised land? This should be one of those years where they try to go all in. This should be a year where they attempt it. But is their goaltending core good enough to support that thought? Who really knows? Which is why this idea has been brought up into the media as to whether or not the Maple Leafs should acquire a goaltender. Here's an article in NBCSports.com talking about how they do have goalie concerns, but the deadline options they have presented to them are also shaky as well. This article was published by James O'Brien on March 1st, so 2 days ago, and you could see what they write when it comes to the goaltenders of the Maple Leafs. Call it a potential excuse or not, but there's a scary factor hanging over all of this. The Maple Leafs could do everything right and still fall to a great team without winning a playoff series. And to be clear, the Maple Leafs have still been one of the best teams in the NHL this season. It's just, in a dream world, they could make a trade deadline upgrade over Jack Campbell or Mrazek, but in reality those options are limited, and the best course might be hoping that Campbell and or Mrazek can figure it out. There is indeed a statistical profile of the Maple Leafs that is presented over here, talking about goals for per 60, expected goals for, all that stuff. They're pretty good, but when it comes to the crease, that is one of the bigger things that they could go out there and improve. No position can swing a hockey team's fate quite like a goaltender. Unfortunately, that position is also devilishly difficult to predict. Personally, I wouldn't bet any money on a trade deadline goaltender option being a smart gamble for the Maple Leafs, especially in the likely event that a desperate team like the Oilers could drive the prices up. Marc-Andre Fleury is the shiniest goalie object. He boasts the highest ceiling with experience and flashy saves to boot, but with that said, he's likely to command a heavy price. Fleury is also a goaltender who gives up boneheaded goals almost as often as he makes mind-blowing saves. In a market like Toronto, Fleury could face endless grief for one of his trademark blunders. And then attached is actually a Fleury fail compilation, because the existence of that makes me kind of humor myself. The Vezina win isn't that too far in the past, yada yada yada. If you search your mind the last time a goaltender made a big difference for a team following a trade deadline deal, there's a risk this would work out as well as Ryan Miller did for the Blues. Now, this is just one option of many when it comes to the Maple Leafs and who they could have on their targets should they actually try to make a goaltender acquisition. Fleury is the biggest name because Fleury is the best name. And as you see on the list of candidates right here that are actually listed out, Georgiev, Holtby, Varlamov, Korpisalo, Reimer, Jones, Forsberg, it doesn't really compare. Fleury is reputation-wise, skill-wise, consistency-wise better than most of these guys. Now, for Fleury and the Leafs specifically, this is mostly just one of those symptoms of Maple Leafs fans being Maple Leafs fans because, you know, hockey, Toronto, center of the universe, you got that entire thing going on over there. And so when it comes to anybody being a potential target in the trade deadline sphere, Toronto always gets linked because, of course, they do. It just so happens that this time it's a lot more convenient because Jack Campbell and Mrazek had themselves a few really bad games back-to-back. Sure, there are some wins sprinkled in there, but the past few weeks have not been kind to these Toronto goaltenders, I'll say that right here. And so, if you're even thinking about going out there and making somewhat of a trade deadline move, there are a lot of other options you could go down. I mean, everybody's saying the Maple Leafs need defense. Hey, Klingberg has been thrown around there. Everybody's been saying that Toronto's going after a forward like JT Miller. That's what Elliot Friedman went out there and said he would put his money on, assuming, of course, Jake Muzzin stays on the LTIR and he does not come back in the remainder of the regular season. But a goaltender could be another one of these names too if you really wanted to stretch that wire thin. A few things would have to go right, first and foremost. Firstly, you would have to make sure that Muzzin does not come back. That is a prerequisite to this entire conversation, because Marc-Andre Fleury is not cheap at $7 million a year. Now, Toronto, with Jake Muzzin and his $5.625 million AAV salary, would not be enough to go out there and make Fleury work. But if you send away a goaltender in a trade for Fleury, maybe it is Peter Mrazek who's making $3.8 million a year, then I guess you could go out there and try to make that work. But either way, Fleury going over to Toronto is not going to solve all of Toronto's problems. Sure, his goaltending is good, but as the article did state, it's far from consistent enough to be what exactly the Maple Leafs fanbase would be looking for and satisfy these guys 110%. Sure, is it good enough to maybe get you into the playoffs and win a round or two? Yeah, probably. It's Fleury, for crying out loud. But there are still some other aspects of the Maple Leafs that would need improvement aside from goaltending. Like, we've noted this entire time. It's not just one thing the Maple Leafs need to work on. It's whenever these games happen where they absolutely crap the bed against Buffalo, against Detroit in the third period, etc., when these games happen, it's not just one part of the lineup that needs work, it's everything. There's a culture, somewhat like mental problem that persists throughout the Maple Leafs. It's like a virus that infects everybody slowly, one by one, once it activates. And the Buffalo game was one of those games where we really did saw that come to fruition. Now, when it comes to other goaltending options, as we said, there's a big list over here. Georgiev, Holtby, Korpisalo, whatever. But the fact that Jaroslav Halak is included in here is hilarious to me. Now, I'm going to go out there and say my pitch right now. Toronto fans, Jaroslav Halak is the best goaltender in the NHL. Do not go out there and search for any commentary videos made by me or by anybody else in the Vancouver Canucks community talking about Halak, because you're going to be wasting your time. All you need to know is that Jaroslav Halak is a gift from the heavens. He is the best goaltender in Vancouver. Thatcher Demko who? Thatcher Demko none. Markstrom none. Luongo none. Jaro Halak is where it's at, and this is the best goaltender the Canucks have seen since Kirk McLean in the gosh darn 1990s. So, if there's a first-round pick that you have at your disposal, throw it Vancouver's way, baby. Let's see Jaro Halak have himself one more run at prosperity, because this guy is so good. And I would be cheering to the moon and back if he ever gets traded, because, man, whatever the Canucks would get in return, I would treasure with all my heart. This guy is the epitome of Vezina caliber goaltending right here, and it's why I believe the Maple Leafs should go out there and trade for this guy. Okay, the past minute has been me going out there and joking. Jaroslav Halak is terrible, which is why, if you even think about this guy as a potential rental option for your team, I'm sorry, but any of the other names on here probably would be worth a lot more of your time than Halak would be. Now, sure, I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot, because my overall perspective on the Canucks is that I want Halak to get traded. This guy's expiring next season, and he's making an amount of money on our cap hit, or not our cap hit, I say that like I'm a part of the team, on the Canucks cap hit, that is not going to do anything because it's a salary bonus. Like, the Halak experiment has been an utter disaster for the Vancouver Canucks, and I mean, if you're able to get anything out of this guy, I go out there and take it, because if he's willing to waive that no-move clause that he so desperately fought to get here in Vancouver, then giving Spencer Martin the backup crease would be more than enough, in my opinion, to justify that idea. And so, Maple Leafs fans, you can go out there in the comments and talk to me about any one of Georgiev, Holtby, Varlamov, Korpisalo, Reimer, Jones, Forsberg, Halak, Hudobin, and or Marc-Andre Fleury. But of course, I only wanted to focus on two of these because they make me laugh. Yeah, it's my show. We're going to do what I want on this channel. But Fleury, he is the big fish, which is why I felt like it was necessary to highlight him. Halak, it's only really included because this article has his name listed, and I find that super hilarious. So you can let me know in the comments all your thoughts about these ideas over here. Should the Maple Leafs go after a goaltender, or is this virus that they have just something that you can shrug off? Because you feel like once the playoffs actually starts, that's when the Leafs will get it together, because the past few years have been really, really helpful in allowing us to have that belief. I hope you enjoyed this video, and Bye.